Good afternoon, folks. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time here, so I'd like to welcome everybody who's on to join us on this wonderful webinar that we're going to be having with Rabbi Dr. Richard Address on another perspective that we have on dementia. We're so grateful that you've been able to come in and join us on this workshop that's being sponsored by NAJC, along with the great financial participation and sponsorship of the Sephardic Foundation on Aging. So we're certainly grateful to them, and we're grateful to each and every one of you for being here. This time, it's my pleasure to present to you Dr. Richard Address, who is a noted expert certainly in the Jewish community and deals with a program called Jewish Sacred Aging. Dr. Address.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mo. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is well. Greetings from what is today an April day here outside of Philadelphia in southern New Jersey. It's about 75 degrees. The sun is out and people don't know what to do with it. We have lots to talk about, and I thank you for joining us. I thank you for giving up of your time, and hopefully we can dialogue. I know the Q&A situation is you raise a question. Mo is right, and I thank him, and I also thank Allison for her support and tech expertise for somebody who is technologically challenged, unless my granddaughter's with me, and I wish her well in her wedding, and much joy and happiness and health. Jewish Sacred Aging is the program that I run. It really emerged out of the work that I did for 33 years with the Union for Reform Judaism. It's the largest program that deals with Judaism and aging and the impact of longevity on our families. I spend most of my time with congregations, helping to work with them and organizing and understanding the changes in the demographic that is, according to the Pew study, approximately 49% of the American Jewish population, according to the 2020 study. As many of you probably know, about 49% of us are over the age of 50 and growing. So this whole longevity revolution, which is where we spend most of our time at Jewish Sacred Aging, really has significantly impacted and changed much of the American Jewish community, and will continue to do so. We also have a weekly podcast, Seekers of Meaning, that focuses in on issues related to exactly what the program Jewish Sacred Aging is about. So the issue of dementia has come up increasingly, and I want to explore with you some ideas, some resources, some practical things, some ways congregations or organizations can begin to respond to this issue, and also talk a little bit about the new rituals that are being created around it. One of the workshops that we do in congregations is called New Rituals for New Life Stages. And we've uncovered, because it continues to evolve, people searching for really adult support, ritual-wise, prayer-wise, to this journey that they're on called dementia. And as all of you know who are chaplains, this issue continues to mount and continues to grow, and it is a family systems issue. It's not just one person, it's the entire family system. And you never know when the phone will ring and what's going to happen. Just as I was telling Mo and Allison before we began, just in the last 5 days, because we also do a lot of consulting with individuals and families around issues related to caregiving and longevity, etc. Three things emerged. One, a call from a man locally dealing with his wife in dementia and declining and excruciating pain, and it's becoming too much for him. And they've been to, as he said, many doctors. And he picked up the phone and asked me point blank, "Is it time to consider euthanasia?" His words, that's a direct quote. Now, remember, in New Jersey, we have medical aid in dying is illegal. It's legal as of August 1st, 2019. So that may have colored what he was talking about. And I got another phone call or email from a very old friend who is about 50 years old, was just diagnosed with vascular dementia. And then another set of emails from a former congregant of mine in a congregation that I worked with for many years, dealing with the struggles he's having with his wife. And it's actually some of the things in his email I do want to share with you, because it's very profound and very, very real and very, very, I think, meaningful. The statistics also, according to the Alzheimer's Association, there's approximately 6 million people right now dealing with Alzheimer's. And as baby boomers age out, uh, over the next decade, 2 decades, that number is expected to, according to them, grow to about 15 to 16 million. And one of the issues we're facing in the community, and I'm sure you're dealing with it on a daily basis, is the fact that there just aren't enough qualified caregivers to take care of us. And that's a whole other conversation that I urge congregations and individuals to have as well, called the economics of aging, of the expense. And of course, in the United States, because a lot of it is based upon productivity, there are figures as how much money a person who's caring for someone with Alzheimer's in family caregiving, the productivity that is lost. It's phenomenal, but this caregiving issue is significant, and I do want to mention some of it as we go along. Again, parenthetically, if there's a question that comes up, feel free to interrupt. If we're going to get to it, I'll tell you, I don't want to, delay things. The issue of seeking spiritual guidance and spiritual sustenance. And I know this has been, Dale mentioned this a lot last week, and it's going to be the subject of subsequent webinars as well. But I wanted to share with you in the course of today, this hour or so, some of the information, some of the material that's coming out that's being used. So Allison, if you could click on that first slide, that would be really, really great. And I hope all of you can see it. This is from a book called Mishkan Refuah, Where Healing Resides. It's published by the CCAR Press. It's a very, very little book, not a big tome, but something you literally can stick in the jacket pocket of, or pocketbook, or, a back pocket. These are 2 prayers, meditations, one upon receiving a diagnosis of dementia. And again, I underline the concept unhurried, which is a high holiday sermon itself, the whole concept of unhurried time with family and friends, because time itself, as you know, changes, and time is the great arbiter of all of this stuff. And as I think Dale alluded to, again, the idea, when I'm weak, may their arms embrace me, be there, voices guide me. It's a very, very lovely, lovely meditation. But I want to call your attention also to this concept of this prayer called facing dementia. To me, this is a brutal meditation, brutal in a positive sense. It is stark, it is real, and it is in many ways very, very beautiful. And look at the imagery is right out of Exodus. It's the wilderness motif. I'm about to enter a wilderness, and all that I have thought is me. My voice, my thinking, my memories will slip away, and I may not even comprehend it. As I enter this wilderness, my step quivers, my soul hurts. In this leap of faith, interesting words, I will come to rely on so many, and we will all rely on you. Whom will I recognize? Who will recognize me? Even though my mind will change, please do not let the knitting of my soul unravel. It's a beautiful phrase. Only you will know me, even if I do not know myself. Please help me to remember that others before me have found you in the wilderness. I am not sure I will know to look for you, but please look for me. I'll throw this. Any reaction to this? What? And you're in the Shumo. I guess he put this in the Q&A, or however you do this. It's okay, Allison. Thank you. Let's go back to the. Anybody react to that? Any visceral reaction? What was it triggered in you as a chap? And given the close to 40. There's probably people you deal with this, but also, like myself, people who've dealt with this in their own family. Um, Anybody? I don't know how we can monitor this.
So Lynn wrote that it's powerful, moving, gut-wrenching, and hopeful because it's so real.
Yeah, it's I find it to be a very powerful matter. And every time I do to a group of people, there's this audible like at the end. Um, because it really speaks to a spiritual component. I can't look for you. I hope you'll look for me. And you know when and I'm sure all of you have had this conversation because where is this person and who is this person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and where is the soul and all the theological, psycho-spiritual components of what that last line means. I personally believe, and feel free to disagree on, there's no way to prove this, um, that there's another level of reality, and it's probably the wrong word, that an individual as they progress in this wilderness goes to that we cannot understand. Now that I'm older, I fully accept there are many things, especially dealing with the mind, that I do not understand. Um, and I saw this with my mom, and I'm sure many of you have experienced it in a similar way. Any other comments?
Yeah, there were two more comments. One individual said, "I've also asked God for such things," and the second person said, "The power, fear, faith, very terrifying and powerful, really addresses the core of the fear of losing oneself."
Yeah, and I think as we've talked about, and I'm sure all of you have talked about in either privately or professionally, this is really one of the core spiritual challenges of this that need to be addressed and talked about, I think. Our congregations do not, they could do let's put it this way, put a positive spin. The organized Jewish community, congregations, Jewish organizations, men's clubs, sisterhoods, whatever, could do a little bit better job, I think, focusing and talking about this because so many people are dealing with it. Um, One of the other prayers that I wanted to bring with you, and there's one or two others that I just want to raise with you, and I want to give you some other resources, and then raise one issue with you and get your opinion because this is being lived every single day around our community, and it's a concept that's gotten us at Jewish Sacred Aging into a tiny bit of controversy. So, Allison, if you could bring up that caregiver's prayer. Thank you. Um, this is a prayer that comes, and I'll give you the resource in a bit. And also, I'd love to have your reaction to this as well. Because caregiving is such a component, a major, major component of this journey. And we call it a new life stage. It really is a new life stage. Caregiving can last, especially in dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, for not only weeks, not only months, but you have talked to people who this is a years. Sustainer of the universe, help me to care for my loved one with hope, courage, and sensitivity. Grant me insight, resourcefulness, and the ability to ask for help and to accept help when it is needed. Very, very important. May I find the patience to overcome difficult moments and to find meaning and purpose in the smallest task. O eternal God, help me to remember to take care of myself so that I may have the strength to help others. Be with me and my loved one as we journey on this path together. May the one who makes peace in the heavens bring peace to me, to my family and loved ones, and to us all. Amen. Again, any reaction? The language here, it speaks to exactly what I'm sure all of you have counseled caregivers, people who come to you and, how am I going to be dealing with? Take care of yourself, get the nutrition, eat well, get rest. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's excruciatingly important. One of the resources that we use sometimes, and they're on the web, is out of actually, the guy did Gary did a podcast for me many years ago called caregiver.com, and they just posted in the recent posting what every dementia caregiver must know. What every dementia caregiver must know. It's caregiver.com. It's out of Miami. And again, it lists basically a list of things that I'm sure all of you have talked to people about, but it really is right out of this prayer. You know, take care of yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Even the smallest task is important, et cetera, et cetera. Mo, a couple of reactions.
Yes, I have a couple of reactions here. Once one individual says these are excellent. Someone else wrote, I have trouble asking for help and think that I need to take care of my mother by myself. Nobody can care for her like me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Are you allowed to say who sent that in?
I am, if that person will allow me to. If individual, yeah. So Sarah Crocker just said yes. I'm allowed to tell you, Sarah Crocker.
So Sarah, first of all, thank you. Many of us have walked this walk. I lived this with my mom, and when she, what I call crashed, when the dementia really hit and it was obvious what was going on, I started to go into rabbi mode. I can take care. I'm an only child, so I didn't have brothers or sisters, and that's a whole other mishigas. One of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got was from the social worker at the hospital, virtual hospital here in southern New Jersey, outside of Philly, who walked up to me, and I started to ask technical questions, and she looked at me and basically said very, very nicely, very, very nicely, "You are an idiot. Your mother doesn't need you to be a rabbi. She needs you to be her son. And there's lots of ways to get help, et cetera, et cetera." So Sarah, a lot of us are, have this, we're used to doing these things with other people, and but sometimes it's Tzimtzum is the best. A little Tzimtzum goes a long way. It's a t-shirt maybe. It's very difficult. It really, really is. I mean, there should be a course or a webinar on just clergy taking care of clergy when clergy has to be a member of the family and not professional, because there's all kinds of psychosocial, psychodynamic things involved in that one. But yes, so Sarah, I know it is tough. It really, because part of you say, well, I know who I was on this committee, I can do that. It's very, very tough. So thank you for that.
And Sarah says that she's an RK.
Oh, well, alachat chama v'kama.
For those who don't know, RK means rabbi's kid.
That's a double. Yeah, it's tough. It because there's all subliminal expectations that are projected upon you, expectations that come from your neshama that you want to project on, and the reality is presence and just being, as all of us know, because we tell it to other people. It's amazing how many times we will counsel somebody else, and when it's our turn to bat, we know better. But the reality is, most of the times we don't.
So another individual writes, I have encountered spouses of patients who need full care. A lot of times the caregiver doesn't feel equipped and has guilt because they want to help, but they don't know how. Then they lose track of their own help. This prayer would be helpful. And then she continues on and she says, sometimes I wonder if we're equipped to take care of our own family members. There are layers of relational histories here. It can get complicated, which roles to take.
Well, whoever wrote that, double gold stars. The family, when I said before that this stuff it's a family systems issue. So those of us have walked a little bit of pastoral. In my doctor of ministry, we had a whole certification program of pastoral counseling. But the family systems, the family dynamics issue can be so overwhelming. And I would bet you my Phillies tickets, which are now worthless. Last week they were worth something, a lot actually. But now who cares? that every single one of us has walked this walk in some way, shape, or form, either professionally or personally. My wife just left to go do an errand. We are living this right now with her family after the death of her brother, and there's all kinds of family dynamics, and it's let's just say it's very interesting, but not in a great way. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge because a lot of times the rabbi, the chaplain, the priest, the minister has to walk this very, very, very fine line with projected images and expectations on you when sometimes all you want to do is mourn. All you want to do is just say, I need to process this. This is hurting me. Or I have questions, the why questions. Um, so yeah, it's that this whole how do we take care of ourselves professionally in moments of crisis and it's really, I don't know whether you've done a webinar on that, but in this day and age, especially post COVID, this is anything else, Mo, before I move on?
Two things. So we have one individual who wrote, the Facing Dementia prayer beautifully affirms the spiritual needs and spirituality of the person with dementia, even with its progression as severe and its severity. So I think you're absolutely right. It does express that beautifully.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, the other thing I wanted to point out was we talk about caring for caregivers. In my particular family, and I don't like to bring personal stuff up, but when my wife was dying, she wasn't a dementia patient. She had other issues. She was dying. We knew she was dying. My son, as a physician, he would come into the room and he would start to look at the charts and everything else. And I would begin to do the same thing. And nurses did come in and say, hey, time to be a son, time to be a husband, not to be. So you're right.
Yeah, it's yes, it's just so complicated, just in so many layers. And at least when I was many years ago at HUC, we never had these conversations in the seminary. They're starting to now in the two seminaries I teach at, HUC and Wurzweiler at Yeshiva. These conversations are starting, and thankfully, because they're very, very important. I wanted to bring with you to share with you something that just came to me literally late last night and early this morning uh, from a friend of mine, from a former congregant of mine, who's former prosecutor in this area, very well read, connected. His wife is now dealing with Alzheimer's disease, and his name is Jack. He's struggling. He writes, these are long emails, which I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. Don't worry. But he outlines her gradual progression from being involved with social media and reading, etc., to now, quote, she can only watch television. But then he writes on the one hand, uh, he writes about the future, and he writes just a whole line of question marks. And then he says, on the one hand, I'm scared about the future because either I do not know how things are going to proceed and turn out. And on the other hand, I'm scared because I do know. Either way, it sucks. I lie awake at night because I don't know what to do or if I have the wisdom to know what to do and when to implement the next course of action. Luckily, he has reached out to his therapist, the elder care attorney. He's gotten a retainer for a healthcare coordinator. Um, he has something, maybe some of you know about this, called RAZ, capital R, capital A, capital Z mobility, that uses pictures instead of names for his wife to be able to call people. Again, this is all part of a whole other conversation about the growing use of robotics and stuff like that. There's a whole growth industry of, we just did one of our podcasts with Karen Etkin from Israel, who's involved in something called Age Tech. And she just wrote a very, very interesting book on this revolution on robotics and technology and AI that's going to reshape a lot of caregiving. So I wanted to mention, this is something that this man has now for his wife, who can see pictures as opposed to reading the numbers, et cetera, et cetera. Furthermore, he writes, while you and everyone you will be talking to know about it, You have to urge the clergy to stress to their flocks that the people have to get all necessary documentation prepared before you fall down this rabbit hole. It's expensive. That's all I'm going to say. And he concluded this morning when he wrote early this morning, like it's literally 7:45 this morning, saying just one more thing that I wanted to say to you. Quote, there is a palpable sense of loss, which is something that there's a realization that we will never get back to where we were, and we just hope we can maintain something. They sold a vacation home, etc., etc., etc. And so one of the other resources I wanted to bring to you, if you're not aware of this, The Myth of Closure, Ambiguous Loss in a Time of Pandemic and Change by Pauline Boss. But the thesis of this really is partly what Jack was talking about. This unbelievable sense of loss, the literature calls anticipatory grief, that you know what the end is, that you know what's happening. And I'm sure you've talked to people who, when the end comes, when someone dies, and they may come to you afterwards, or the congregational rabbi, the clergy, and they'll sit with them and say, I should be feeling this. I should be, all this, the shiva and the emotion, but I'm empty. And the answer is, as some of you know, because a lot of you probably have dealt with this, is that you began sitting shiva 6 months ago, a year ago, and really have been in that mourning process, just like this man is writing. He's scared because he doesn't know what's going to happen, but he's scared because he does know what's going to happen. And where an individual starts this grief process is fascinating and really requires, I think, a lot of attention and counseling, grief counseling, not afterwards, but during. So what this person is talking about, what Jack is talking about, the need for clergy and congregations and organizations to really address this. There is some, and we do this a lot in my program. There are congregations who've started to have intense conversations around the whole issue of mental health, where they bring in Alzheimer's, they bring in the Alzheimer's Association, they'll have services, they'll have forums, educational forums about the Jewish approach to mental health, which, as you know, is in the Talmud. I think it's Chagiga 9a, which begins with the Ezehu Shoteh, the whole conversation of what a Shoteh is. There's a lot to discuss and bring up to date. And there's also the small, but we keep pushing this, urging of congregations to have services that honor caregivers. For some reason, I don't understand why more congregations don't do that, because there's so many people in their congregation who are doing this. So for those of you who may be serving a congregation or part-time in a congregation or are in a facility, and that they will have a high holiday service, and they will invite family members to have, say, an Aliyah for the Torah on the high holidays, to honor those people as caregivers. I've done this. It's very, very powerful. For example, in a synagogue, let's say on Yom Kippur, that one of the aliyot, instead of the treasurer and the president of the whatever, or this, that, and the other thing, just ask all the people in the congregation who have been a caregiver or are caregivers, let's say within the last 5 years, to rise and recite the bracha together. It is an amazing event. And there's a change in the electricity in the room, because it's like, even though people caregiver, and you do this basically alone in many cases, this is a community. So I just throw that out as another idea that I've seen work. And for some reason, I don't understand why more congregations do not do that and have these types of honors and programs more, because it's there. It's right there. Mo, what do we got?
What do we have? I don't think we have anything. Let me take a look. I'm sorry. No, we have one. We have one. We have two. So one person says she needs to leave for another meeting, so I'm not going to worry about that. Again, somebody else wrote, I started the grief process when my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 11 years ago. I called her my new mother, which helped me a lot.
That's interesting. See, yes, a long time. And you also triggered a reminder that a lot of congregations, especially perhaps not in, well, regardless of where they are, they do form groups and alliances with, say, if there is one in your area. Not everybody lives in an area with a functioning Jewish family and children's service, but there are organizations that a congregation or organization can partner with to bring some of this material into a group, et cetera, et cetera. The partnership waves the flag of community, and um, along with elder care attorneys who, in many cases, have offices and experts in this, family service people with care managers, geriatric care managers. There's lots over and above the Alzheimer's Association. There's lots of resources that a community can use to bring this in. Um, a couple of other resources that I wanted
Hang on,
to.
before you go on, we have another comment. One individual wrote, so often the congregations are disconnected from the folks who are going through these tasks. The chaplain can be a connector between the family and the local clergy.
Oh, absolutely. The role of the chaplain is continuing to expand. We have chaplains who are in our DMIN program at Huck and the program I teach at Wurzweiler, the certification program in gerontology and palliative care, which is a really good program. Um, the the interplay and the communication, it's surprising. I'm glad you bring that up, because even when I was in the congregation, I would have a congregant, and you would go visit them in a hospital or a facility, and then you'd follow up with home. But rarely did you have that conversation with the chaplain, who may have an insight because they've had an encounter with them in the room that I wasn't there for, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really interesting point to follow up with the organization about just trying to get greater um, interplay and communication between the chaplain and the clergy. Thank you for that. That's really really important. I have to bring that up here at home too, because I also work with the local hospice, chairing their Jewish advisory committee here in southern New Jersey. There,
Some would say this is why we need to build cultures of mercy within the church and the community.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a great point. I'm glad you brought this up, whoever brought it up, because there's a gap there. There's a communication gap that can really be beneficial to the individual, to the community, and to the family. The family knows that people are working together. They're going to feel more supported. Thank you for that. Um, there's an organization also I hang out with sometime called CTAC. The website is the CTAC, CTAC, the CTAC, one word, .org. It's a large consortium based in Washington dealing with basically concerns around healthcare costs in the end of life, last 2 years, the expenses in the last 2 years of life. But they're running on the 15th of this month, which is next week, I think at 3 o'clock Eastern, a focus on the family and friend caregiver workshop, caregivers for older adults living with dementia. Um, if you go to thectac.org, it's another opportunity to deal with, from probably a non-spiritual perspective, um, this issue. A couple of resources that I wanted to bring to you, and hopefully you know them, and if not, well, I found these to be very, very good. A lot of chaplains, and probably some people who are on this call, work in non-Jewish settings, and they're actually and so you're ministering to a wide variety of individuals. There is an organization that I'm a member of. I don't know what the right word is, called Clergy Against Alzheimer's, and it's a national organization. They have published some very, very interesting resources, interfaith, but some powerful stuff. This is, let's see, this is one of them. If you can see this, this is called Dementia Friendly Worship. Dementia Friendly Worship, a multi-faith handbook for chaplains, clergy, and faith communities. It's published by you can get this from Clergy Against Alzheimer's. If you Google them, if you go to the Great God Google, all this it's about 300 pages of a variety of different worship services that have been used in assisted living facilities, CCRCs, memory care units, et cetera, drawn from a variety of faith perspectives. It's really a very, very valuable tool, even if you're just putting together a service or a series of meditations, or if somebody asks you for something, perhaps from a Christian perspective, you can go and pull something out of here that has been used. It's a very, very interesting piece of work. The second one, also published by the Clergy Against Alzheimer's Network, and you can the other website if you want to look up is Us Against Alzheimer's. But go to the Clergy Against Alzheimer's Network. This is a book called Seasons of Caring, Meditation for Alzheimer's and Dementia Caregivers. And again, it's interfaith. It's really, again, a very, very, very beautiful book, beautiful collection of material to be used, to be borrowed, to be used. This one's organized around various stages of development or lack thereof around the seasons. And you'll know some of the people who contributed to both of these things. From the Jewish perspective, you'll probably know some of the academics. Steve Sapp is in there. A whole bunch of people that a lot of you know have written material that they've used in some of these settings. These are two very, very, very lovely resources, very lovely resources. And I really do recommend them to you very, very highly, if nothing else, to keep them in your library, because you never know when you'll need something, especially in an interfaith perspective, or just for a Shabbat meditation, or for something to give a family. It's very, very important. This is a little book that was developed by one of my DMin students, basically because her father died of Alzheimer's, and she turned her thesis into a book called Alzheimer's Families. It's by Michelle Medwin. It's a rabbi up in upstate New York. The subtitle is Emotional and Spiritual Tools for Coping. And you'll see all the sticky notes in here, or the post-it notes, because it has sections on theology. It has sections on ritual. For those of you who do meditation, there's a section of meditations that can be easily adapted. It's a very, very lovely book. The caregiver's prayer is in there, as well as some other prayers and meditations. Again, very, very lovely. And Michelle did a tremendous job. This is a book that I don't know many of you know. It was published by the URJ Press when the URJ Press existed. When the URJ, the Union for Reform Judaism, did its own Tzimtzum, they got rid of the press. And so books like this probably were just either lost or given over to Berman House. But you can get it at Amazon. This is called Broken Fragments, obviously a riff on the meditation and interpretation of from the Torah. Jewish experiences for Alzheimer's disease through diagnosis, adaptation, and moving on. This is a series of essays from colleagues, scholars, etc., attempting to deal with the family, the spiritual, emotional, textual approach to dealing with Alzheimer's from a Jewish perspective. Again, it's edited by Doug Cohn, Kohn. You can get it on Google. You get it on the Great God Amazon. Some bookstores will have it. You probably can get it online. Maybe Berman House took the publication rights over when the URJ Press left. Last one. This is a book we did. You can get this also only on Amazon because, again, the press did it and the press doesn't exist anymore. This is a handbook we did for congregations on Judaism and mental health, called Refuat HaNefesh. It traces the Talmudic interpretations, etc. But the prayer that I wanted to bring to you, this meditation that I wanted to bring to you, is a specific meditation for individuals and families dealing with mental health issues. Congregations have used this when they've done a mental health Shabbat or a program around the issues of Alzheimer's, dementia, depression, bipolar, etc., and attempting to, and there are congregations who have done this. We, Jewish Sacred Aging, have been involved with a bunch of them. It's a Misha Berach. Many colleagues now, and some of you who do Friday night services at a facility, you may do a Misha Berach as part of that Friday night service. And we always encourage, when I do services, include the mental health component, people who are dealing with mental health. But I want to share with you this meditation. This is a Misha Berach for individuals, families dealing with mental health concerns. May God, who blessed our fathers and mothers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, grant blessed healing to all those members of our congregation and members of our families who struggle with mental illness. May God be with them in their illness and give them patience, hope, and courage. May God so endow their attending physicians and therapists with insight and skill that they be soon restored to health and vigor of body and mind. May God be with their families too and grant them patience, hope, and courage. May God remove their anger and wipe away their feelings of guilt. May God endow them with a full life and with love that they too may enjoy health and vigor of body and mind. And may God bind up their wounds that they may enjoy many a simcha and thank God for the blessings of health as we say amen. I wanted to share that with you because, again, it's another example of a ritual, a prayer that can be incorporated, adapted to a specific purpose, etc. Any comments? Okay, we're just about on time. Any comments, questions?
There are only two comments in here. One says, my dad goes to an adult daycare 3 times a week. He loves it. Mom has time for herself. And the other says, in our congregation here at Atlanta, we're hoping to introduce a program on how to build a dementia-friendly Shabbat service, as we're having more members who have spouses or partners or parents with dementia. So I think those are both good comments. I would ask you, so far we've been talking a lot about prayer. Have you got any ideas that you can share with all of us for ways we can actually work with people with dementia that are not prayer necessarily, but that are able to help them?
Well, yeah, it depends upon, obviously, as you all know, where they are on the journey. If you go to some of the resources that are online and stuff like this one I just mentioned, the caregiver thing, and other programs and conversations, and some of you have done this, some of you do this every single day. I'm a big believer in presence, being there, as you know, the idea of being supportive, the idea of not making judgments, the idea of being supportive not only to the individual but for the caregiver. Language is important, how you say things. One of the things, in fact, that this man who wrote this email is struggling with was what to say and how to say it to his wife, and how to respond to people who will call up or try to say something supportive. Parenthetically, one of the other things that would be very, very interesting for the group to talk about is the vocabulary itself. I have a funny feeling that for this whole longevity journey, we may need to create new vocabulary. Some of the words and the language and the implications of it may trigger things that, especially towards the end of life. So being supportive, proper language, presence, especially as things deteriorate. All of you know the use of music. One of the podcast we did many years ago was with a gentleman from a facility in Virginia who, if somebody would come in and they would interview the family and they would ask what the person who's coming into the facility, what their favorite music was, and they would make a playlist for the iPad or whatever, Walkman, whatever is in these days. Because as you all know, and I think Dr. Agronin may have, and I know Dale also alluded to this, music is one of the last concepts of the brain to disappear. And sight and sound, we are a sensual civilization. So the smells, the touch of the challah, and I'm sure many of you have done this in your own practice. The challah, the wine, the candles, the havdalah, the music, things that generate memory or a conversation. And always, as we've all been told, the how the language acts. No, you didn't mean that. Mom, you said that yesterday. You just go with the flow. You just go with it. Because I said sometimes we're dealing with a different reality that we may not be aware of, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. So these types of support mechanisms, which are all, discussed all over the place, and I think every time you would go to a workshop on, dealing with Alzheimer's patients, the vocabulary comes up. And I think it's very important. It's very, very important. And to the person who wrote from Atlanta, if I can help you with that in your congregation, let me know. Because that's very, very important to what you're trying to do. And there are some congregations who are also trying to do this. Anyway, by the way, the website is jewishsacredaging.com, and you can get me at rabbiaddress@jewishsacredaging.com or rf as in Fred address @gmail.com. And just feel free to get in touch with me, go to the website. And for those of you who want to write for the website, we have people writing for it all over the place. So we're more than happy to welcome you.
So we have two more comments in here. One question is, what's the best way to communicate with those who are not communicative?
I have found just what I alluded to, the use of the senses. Music, sight, sound, taste, touch. Because sometimes you depending upon where this person is on the journey, you're not going to have a conversation with them, but you can have a conversation with them through the use of the senses. And thankfully, Judaism is a religious civilization that is rich in the use of those senses. And so that's the first thing that comes in, because I've seen that work. I've seen that work. I had somebody once, many, many, many years ago, when we first started to work in this, when I worked for the URJ, actually wrote up a coloring book that the union didn't want to publish. So we did it ourselves in the department, a coloring book. And it was somebody who was an expert in this subject. And when we were talking about, I don't understand, tell me why. And it's because it's a tactile. Doesn't matter whether in the lines or not, but the use of the color and the use of the coloring itself, they have found sometimes triggered an emotion. So there's all different ways to have a conversation. Some of it, all of us have been in that situation. I think you could put on a piece of music that person may not be able to verbalize what that memory was, but you can have that just by the looking of the way the body language changes. A picture of a grandchild or a great grandchild or something, you can have that conversation in ways that not normal, but very, very powerful and very meaningful.
And on the 28th of November, we're going to have Spirit Alive, which is an interesting program where you're actually going to see, hopefully you'll be with us, you'll actually be able to see how certain values and concepts are transmitted using tactile and sensory motifs. So that's very, very good. the same individual who wrote about Atlanta wrote that services need to be shorter. They have to use pictures, music, and allow for movement. Friends should be with the caregiver. And this individual is also looking for a dementia-friendly service booklet. So there are probably some around.
Yeah, and if you go to the one I just showed you, the Dementia Friendly Worship book, that probably has, I mean, this is like 300 pages, 282 pages of resources with exactly what you're looking for. It's called Dementia Friendly Worship, a multi-faith handbook for chaplains, clergy, and faith communities. Linda Everman, who's in charge of the Us Against Alzheimer's, the Clergy Against Alzheimer's group. And it's published by Jessica Kingsley Publishers. But you can, Google it, and you will find lots of help and ideas that you can lift and adapt. Because yes, it can't be a 2-hour service. But probably the facility and the people in your congregation and what they respond to. So you can it'd be fantastic. And by the way, whoever you are, I don't know your name. If you do that, please, could you send me what you do? Because I like to, with your permission, publish it on the website, because there are going to be other congregations and people who want to learn how to do it from you. Sure. So that would be a gift to the entire community. A rabbi address at jewishsacredaging.com. Just go to the website.
And before we go on to that last major topic that you and I spoke about, yep. We have one comment here that says, I've experienced with patients that when we go with it, there's something very beautiful that emerges, the sweetness and goodness of a different nature. It's all good. And then that same individual writes that she had a patient who was a knitter. Family brought in a knitted blanket that the patient made, placed it over the patient's body while the patient was in the hospital. So yes, absolutely. These are wonderful ways of helping deal and relate to patients, people with dementia.
All this is great. I mean, this is great. So I urge you to continue to do this and keep track of it. And look, as you know, every patient, every family is different. But part of that conversation with the family, hence again, the family dynamic, is what would mom, dad, your father, your mother, what about them could we use? Whether it's the blanket, whether it's the crochet, whether it's the quilt, whether it's a piece of music, whether it's a picture. What can we use as the journey continues to continue this type of conversation? Remember, the conversation doesn't have to be verbal. There is two more things real fast, because it's already all right. So this is a book called Jewish Prayers of Hope and Healing by the Israeli liturgist Alden Salavi. He has done several podcasts for me on this. He's going to be publishing a brand new one soon. But on Jewish Prayers of Hope and Healing on page 133, and he has another one 2 pages before. This is a meditation called To My Spouse or Partner on My Diagnosis with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Again, these are very, very deeply moving meditations. And I want to continue that this is being written now to deal with this very, very powerful reality as people search for words. How do I express what I'm feeling? It goes like this. My darling, dear, the doctors say that I will be leaving, perhaps slowly in stages, first losing control of my body and then retreating into my mind, visiting with you less and less. It is not my choice to say goodbye. It is our path. God of compassion, watch over, you mentioned the name, in the months and years ahead. Give them the strength to live, to love, to mourn. As we lose each other in this disease, grant them courage and peace of mind as we face difficult decisions and difficult moments together. And in time, they face them without me. My love, it is not my choice to leave. Great words. It is not my choice to depart. It is not my choice to disappear. Forgive me when my disease speaks words of anger or pain. Remember my devotion to you. Remember our love and our lives for both of us, our joys, our hopes, our dreams. God of compassion, bless this person in their hours of loss and grief, and grant them a life of wonder and awe in the years ahead. Again, another example, much like that prayer from where healing resides, and that we began with, to talk about, I'm trying to make sense of this journey. And that one line also is, it's some of you who work all the time with dementia, Alzheimer's patients. In essence, forgive me for I may say things or do things out of that are not me. Please, it's not me, it's the disease. The last thing I want to raise with you and get perhaps your opinion is something that every single congregation that I've worked with in the last 5, 6, 7 years, where we've done this workshop about Alzheimer's and rituals, has indicated that this is present. As late as last Sunday, when I did something for a group here in Cherry Hill. And that is when the spouse comes to the rabbi, and perhaps some of you have had this conversation and perhaps racked with guilt and say, I need to talk to you because I need to know if I'm doing something horribly, horribly wrong. But my spouse is in that memory care unit and they're never getting out. And I love them and I visit them. And the kids, when they come in from Pittsburgh and Boston, they visit, but my spouse hardly recognizes them anymore, just like this email that my friend wrote this morning. And as you know, last year, my kids gave me this talk tour to the Canadian Rockies, and I had a wonderful time. And I met this woman and we struck up a conversation, and she lives only at 40 minutes from us. And we got coffee, and then we had dinner, and then we developed a relationship. I'm alone. She's a widow. She knows I'm married. She knows the situation, but we became close and we became intimate. And I need to know, Rabbi, if I'm committing adultery. But it does not mean I love my wife any less, or my husband any less. We visit all the time. I care for them. I honor them. I love them. But I know what the situation is. I know the end. I'm still have my health. I go to business several days a week. I'm alone at night. I can't talk about this with my family. My adult children wouldn't understand. And I'm hesitant to raise this with our social group because I don't think they would understand. And I need to know, am I committing adultery, or is there some way that I could understand that I'm not doing anything wrong, quote unquote, but I have my own needs as well? I raise this because this is not fiction, as many of you know. This is happening right now in our congregations, our communities. The question that we raise is, do we now, in the 21st century, knowing what we know about this disease in the context, should the Jewish community create some sort of a document, some sort of a prayer that gives permission? It says, in this particular context, if you find the need for emotional, spiritual, or physical companionship, I give you permission, because I know you will care for me. And if the situation was reversed, vice versa. There is a document called an open letter to my spouse that was created many, many years ago. It's not Jewish. Some people have written on this and have tried to use and reinterpret the traditional concept of the chained wife, the chained woman, the aguna, and say, is the spouse in this situation, especially in the end stage, could the concept of aguna be reinterpreted to say, in this particular context, this is really not going to be adultery? Is it for everybody? No. Do we create a document? I don't know. All I know is This situation exists. This is not as in the Luft. This is not fiction. This is real. The question that I ask you is, as chaplains, as clergy, as people of compassion, do we have a responsibility to address this situation from the pulpit, from a program, to raise the issue, to get people's opinion, if nothing else in the least, to let people know who are walking this walk that there's a place that they can go to talk and get support? I throw this question to you, and I'm interested in what you have to say. And if nobody wants to raise their hand, that's also perfectly okay. It's a difficult subject. It is a very difficult subject. I did write an article on this for the American Society of Aging magazine called Generations a while ago, in 2011, which was really a while ago. And the title of the article was "Till Death Do Us Part?" ? A look at marriage rituals when a partner has Alzheimer's disease. And actually quoted the document, an open letter to my spouse. It's filled with controversy. You know, people who responded saying, well, if you created something, when would a couple sign it? Certainly not when they get married, you know, at age 28, because they have no concept. And most people say, well, if they're going to do it, they should do something like when they sign the advance directive, when you're beginning to talk about what ifs in a cognitive and substantive way. Okay, we have, looks like one person.
Yep. We have one individual writes, I'm working on a dissertation on how chaplains provide spiritual care to people with advanced dementia who are minimally or non-communicative. This has been a significant area of care for a number of chaplains, myself included, in our department. I hope to share some research dementia-specific ritual care, specific spiritual care assessments and multisensory resources. One question is, are there dementia-specific spiritual care assessments and how to best use multisensory resources? Another individual writes, I think this is a situation that we should discuss with each other, including how to bring it up. Another individual writes, I encountered this situation several times when I was a hospice chaplain. I think a document is a fascinating idea.
Wow.
And even another one just says that they have to leave us right now. So I'm sorry that they have to leave.
No. To the first person who asked for the surveys, dementia,
Yep.
I forget the exact, whoever you are, I hope you're still here.
Oh, she's here.
If you can get this Alzheimer's Families book by Michelle, in the back, there are caregiving burden scales, surveys that you may find helpful. I can't give you the exact page, but since you asked for it, Michelle used it, and she published these documents, the outlines. You know what the survey thing would look like. It may be worthwhile tracking this down and seeing if you can adapt the survey scale, the analysis scales. There's somewhere back there, there's a book on spiritual assessment by Atchley. I forget his first name. Atchley. I don't remember the first name, but it's a book on that includes some spiritual care assessments, which we rarely do. Spiritual history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is some stuff around, but off the top of my head, I know that Michelle published them. So this is Alzheimer's Families, Emotional and Spiritual Tools for Coping. Her name is Rabbi Michelle Medwin, Medwin. And it's published by Colchester Woods Press. Colchester Woods Press out of Binghamton, New York, which is where she lives. So just check this out.
We have another interesting one here that says, I think we have to be willing to step into the unknown in challenging areas to help our members and patients. etc., and ourselves in the process to clarify their needs, help them cope and normalize their emotions, and help them forgive themselves, or better put, to make peace within themselves.
Yeah, well, the making peace within oneself is, we don't have there. One of the tensions that we talk a lot about, and this alludes to it, so thank you very much. In what we do at Jewish Sacred Aging is this tension of holding on and letting go, which I think becomes more powerful as we get older, and in a lot of times in illness situations, of what we hold on to and what we need to let go of. And part of that is for our own spiritual and mental and physical health. Um, it is tough. It goes to the loss thing, which is a whole spiritual conversation that needs to be had on a whole variety of levels. Um, but it's a fascinating concept of holding on and letting go, and how you deal with, especially with Alzheimer's. If you saw the language of a lot of these prayers, and even in some of the what Jack wrote in the email, it's this journey, and the wilderness motif is very, very powerful, and the gradual, slow process, and it's this bit by bit loss, which is a real spiritual question. How do you begin to deal with this, and make sense out of it? It is the ultimate why question. And as a caregiver, uh, the other response is a Hineni response, because all of us who are or have been caregivers, and the people you counsel and you see in your work who've stepped up to be caregivers, sometimes voluntarily and sometimes not, as just by force, by circumstance, to put that in a sacred context, it's Hineni. It's a Hineni moment. And anyway, that's perhaps a good way to end, Hineni.
Let me just ask you this. One of our attendees asked if you could possibly furnish a list of all of the resources that you provided today. Richard, if you're able to give us just a list of these resources in writing, we'll be happy to post it on our website. If you can't, in answer to this individual who says that it's too difficult to write them down during the webinar, please understand that this webinar is in fact being recorded, and you're certainly free. You will have the link to be able to go in and to be able to rewatch it and get anything you want. But whatever Rabbi Abs is able to provide to us, we will post up there and make available to you.
I'll tell you what I'll do, though. Since when we're done, I'll drop Mo, or to you or Allison, or both.
Or just to either one.
I'll just send you a quick email with the resources that we just went through in this last hour or so. Okay, I'll do it now, because if I don't do it now, what'll happen.
Right. Yeah, and I think somebody's also someone's also asked for access the access to your article, so I'm sure that'll be in there.
Yeah, I'll put that in there.
Right, that's fine. And another one of our individuals here wrote that she just published a book on care for caregivers titled "Meaningful Connections: Positive Ways to Be with a Loved One Who has Dementia." It's a resource, and I'm sure that we'll be able to make that available, because this individual will be presenting to us in 2 weeks. So
okay, cool. Let me know.
November,
whoever that individual is, let me know, because we may want to schedule you for a podcast, because it's
sure.
right up our alley. Okay. So, hey, listen, everybody, thank you for your contributions. This was fun, and I really appreciate your time. I really do appreciate your time. Most importantly, just stay safe and stay healthy. Just stay healthy and be good and be kind. Just be kind. Okay, Mo, thank you.